What if your child's voice on the line shattered your world forever? Mom, I'm getting married tomorrow. Your home and car, sold. Goodbye. And the raw betrayal hit me like a freight train. Unearthing lies, debts, and a fiancé's dark schemes. Feel the gut-wrenching twist that changed everything. Don't click away, or you'll regret not seeing if I could ever forgive the unforgivable. The phone's shrill ring sliced through the quiet of my sitting room, startling me from the haze of late-night telly. The clock on the mantelpiece ticked toward midnight, its steady rhythm a comfort in this old cottage on the edge of our sleepy Cotswolds village. I fumbled for the receiver, the weight of my 68 years settling into my bones as I shifted in the worn armchair. The screen flickered with an advert for car insurance, casting a pale glow across the room. My son's name, James, flashed on the caller ID. My heart lifted. He hadn't rung in months. James. Lad, is that you? My voice, rough from disuse, carried a hope I couldn't hide. The line crackled, distant and cold, like the wind rattling the windows. Mom, his tone was clipped, not the warm drawl of the boy who'd once begged for bedtime stories. I'm getting married tomorrow. The house and your car, they're sold. Papers are done. Goodbye. The words landed like a punch, stealing my breath. What? James, wait. What do you mean? Sold. This is my home. My grip tightened on the phone, knuckles whitening. The room felt smaller, the walls leaning in. My chest tightened, a dull ache spreading like spilt tea across a tablecloth. Check the post tomorrow. It's all there, he said, voice flat, unyielding. Then, a click, silence. I sat frozen, the receiver still pressed to my ear, its faint hum mocking me. The telly droned on, now showing a cheery advert for a family holiday. My home, our home, where James had taken his first steps, where Martin and I had danced to old records and the kitchen was gone. And my old Rover, the one I'd polished every Sunday, its leather seats still smelling faintly of his aftershave. Sold, just like that. My pulse thrummed in my ears, loud enough to drown out the ticking clock. I set the phone down, hands trembling, and stared at the hearth. The fire had died to embers, leaving a chill that seeped into my skin. I stood, joints creaking, and shuffled to the window. The village lane outside was dark, save for the faint glow of Mrs. Harrow's porch light across the way. She'd be asleep by now, her curtains drawn tight like her opinions. The thought of James, my only child, orchestrating this betrayal felt like a knife twisting in my gut. He'd been distant since Martin's passing 5 years ago. But this was something else, something calculated. I pressed my forehead against the cool glass, the damp night air seeping through the frame. What had I missed? What had turned my boy into a stranger? The post. He'd said to check the post. I turned to the sideboard, where a small pile of unopened letters sat, ignored in the fog of my routine tea. Toast. The crossword. Repeat. My fingers, gnarled from years of gardening, rifled through the stack. Bills. A charity appeal. Nothing unusual. But James's words gnawed at me. Tomorrow, I'd have to wait. The thought of sleep was laughable. My mind churned like the river windrush after a storm. I sank back into the chair, the cushions sagging under my weight. Memories flickered, unbidden. James at 10, grinning as we fixed his bike in the shed, his small hands smudged with grease. James at 18, sullen, packing for uni, barely meeting my eyes. Martin's funeral, where he'd stood apart, hands in pockets, refusing to speak. I thought it was grief. Maybe it was something darker. My throat tightened, a lump I couldn't swallow. Had I failed him, or had he failed me? The room smelled faintly of wood smoke and damp wool, the familiar scent of this house I'd called home for 40 years. I glanced at the photo on the mantelpiece, Martin, James, and me, smiling at a long-ago village fete. His hand rested on my arm, his gap-toothed grin wide and unguarded. That boy was gone. In his place was a man who'd sold my life out from under me. Why? For money. For his new bride. Who was she? This woman he'd chosen over his own mother. I rubbed my eyes. The sting of exhaustion mixing with something sharper, anger. Maybe. Or fear. The village was quiet, but I felt eyes on me, as if the walls themselves were watching, waiting for my next move. Tomorrow, I'd find answers. The post would come, and with it, proof of this betrayal. But as I sat there, the embers fading to ash, a colder thought settled in. What if this was only the beginning? What if James, or someone pulling his strings, had more planned? My fingers traced the armrest's frayed fabric, a habit from countless evenings spent here with Martin. He'd know what to say, how to untangle this mess. But he was gone, and I was alone, facing a truth I wasn't ready for. The phone sat silent, a taunting reminder of his voice. Goodbye. The word echoed, sharp and final. I leaned forward, elbows on my knees, and stared at the floorboards, worn smooth by years of our footsteps. Somewhere, in the life I'd built, I'd lost my son. And now, I'd lost everything else. Because I'm not just telling you this to vent. I need you to stick with me. This story, it's not just about a house or a car. It's about what's left when the people you love turn their backs. So, before you get too comfortable, take a moment to like this video and subscribe, but only if you're ready to see this through. Because tomorrow, when that post arrives, I have a feeling the real betrayal is yet to come. The dawn light filtered through the lace curtains, casting fragile patterns on the faded rug like veins on an old hand. I hadn't slept a wink after James's call, my mind a whirlwind of questions that spun faster than the ceiling fan in summer. The cottage felt emptier than ever, the silence broken only by the distant coo of wood pigeons in the garden. My joints ached as I pushed myself up from the armchair, the imprint of my body still warm on the cushion. Tea, that's what I needed, a strong brew to steady my nerves, the way Martin always made it, with just a splash of milk and no sugar, because life was bitter enough. I shuffled to the kitchen, the flagstone floor cold under my slippers, and flicked on the kettle. The hum filled the air, a small comfort in the chaos. As the water boiled, I glanced at the sideboard again, that pile of letters mocking me with their innocence. Nothing from James yet, but the postman would come soon enough, his red van chugging up the lane like clockwork. My stomach twisted at the thought. What papers? What proof of this madness? I poured the tea, the steam rising in lazy curls, carrying the faint scent of bergamot, Earl Grey Martin's favorite. He'd insist on it every morning, saying it was the proper way to start the day in a civilized country. Sipping slowly, the heat spreading through my chest, I wandered into the sitting room. The photo albums caught my eye, stacked on the bookshelf like forgotten promises. Dust motes danced in the sunbeam as I pulled one down, the leather cover creaking under my fingers. I sank onto the sofa, the springs groaning in protest, and flipped it open. There we were, Martin, James, and me at the seaside in Brighton, 1985. James was 5. His chubby hands clutching a melting ice cream. Chocolate smeared across his grin. Martin's laugh lines crinkled in the sun. His arm looped through mine. I'd worked double shifts at the factory that year to afford that holiday, my back screaming from the assembly line. But seeing their faces made it worth every ache. I turned the page, the paper whispering secrets, school plays, where James stumbled over his lines as a shepherd in the Nativity, but we clapped like he'd won an Oscar. Birthdays with homemade cakes, the kitchen filled with the smell of vanilla and burnt edges, because I was better at hugs than baking. He'd skip pub nights with the lads to help him with homework, poring over maths problems until his eyes blurred. "You're a clever one, lad," he'd say, ruffling his hair. He'd beam, that gap-toothed smile lighting up the room. Where had that boy gone? Swallowed by the city, by ambitions I never understood. The tea grew cold in my mug as memories flooded in. University fees. I'd remortgaged the house without telling Martin at first, scraping together every penny so James could study law in London. "It's for his future," I'd whispered to him in bed one night. The weight of the secret heavy between us. He squeezed my hand, his fingers soft and reassuring. "You're a good mother." Alice. But was I? He'd drifted after graduation, odd jobs here and there, calls growing rarer. Martin's cancer diagnosis hit like a freight train. And James, he visited sporadically, his eyes distant, conversations clipped. "Work's busy," he'd mutter, checking his watch. After he passed, he vanished almost entirely, save for obligatory Christmas cards. A knock at the door jolted me back. The postman. No, too early. I set the album aside, wiping my eyes, damned us, and peered through the window. Mrs. Harrow from across the lane, her floral apron tied tight. A covered dish in hand, nosy as a fox in a henhouse, but her casseroles were legendary. I opened the door, the morning air crisp with the scent of dew-kissed roses. "Morning, Alice," she said, her voice a mix of sympathy and curiosity, the way villagers do when they smell gossip. "Brought you some shepherd's pie. Thought you might need cheering up. Heard about, well, you know." I stiffened, the mug nearly slipping from my grip. "Heard what?" "Edith." She glanced around, lowering her voice as if the hedgerows had ears. "The house, love, word is it sold. Saw that estate agent bloke, Mr. Wilkins from town, poking about yesterday, chatting with your James on the phone. He was something about a quick sale for a wedding gift or summit, dreadful business. If you ask me, my blood ran cold, the tea curdling in my stomach. Wilkins, that slick weasel with his shiny shoes and fake smile. I'd seen his signs dotted around the village, sold stickers slapped on like badges of conquest. James sold it. To whom? Edith shifted, her eyes darting. Didn't catch the buyer's name. But Wilkins mentioned a young couple from London. Cash deal. No chain. Said it was all above board. But, well, you weren't mentioned. Alice. Thought you ought to know. I nodded numbly, taking the dish, its warmth seeping through the foil. Ta, Edith. Appreciate it. She patted my arm, her touch light but probing. If you need out, just holler. We're all family here in the village. Aren't we? She bustled off, her slippers scuffing the gravel, leaving me with more questions than answers. Back inside, the album lay open, James's young face staring up accusingly. Sacrifices, nights without sleep, dreams deferred so he could chase his. And this was repayment. Selling the roof over my head for some hasty wedding. Who was this bride? Anyway, he'd never mentioned her. My fingers traced Martin's image, his eyes kind even in print. What would you do? Love, I whispered to the empty room. The clock ticked onward, indifferent. I set the pie on the counter, the savory aroma clashing with my nausea. Neighbors gossiping already great. The village grapevine was faster than broadband, twisting truths into scandals over tea at the WI meetings. Proper British restraint. My foot. They'd dissect this like a Sunday roast. I paced the kitchen, the floorboards creaking underfoot, each step echoing my growing anger. James had forged papers, or tricked me somehow. I'd signed something last visit insurance, he'd said. Bloody hell. Outside, voices drifted from the lane, Edith chatting with Mr. Patel from the shop. Yes, sold right out from under her. Poor Alice. After all she's done for that boy. My cheeks burned. Pity I didn't want it. I wanted answers. Grabbing my coat, the wool scratching my skin, I stepped out, the door slamming behind me. The garden gate squeaked as I headed toward the village green, the mist lifting to reveal the church spire piercing the sky. Mr. Patel nodded as I approached, his shop bell jingling. Alice. Mate. Rough night. You could say that. I leaned on the counter, the smell of fresh bread mingling with spices. Heard anything about my house? He winced, stacking newspapers. Wilkins was in yesterday, boasting about a big commission. Said your lad sorted it quick like. Sorry. Pal, I bought a paper, the headlines blurring. Back home, I rifled through drawers, old receipts fluttering like leaves. They're a document from months ago, my signature scrawled at the bottom. Power of attorney. James had said it was for emergencies. The betrayal hit fresh, a punch to the gut. The phone rang again, shattering the quiet. Unknown number. My heart raced. James. Or worse, I let it go to voicemail, the beep echoing. A woman's voice. Smooth and unfamiliar. Mrs. Thompson. This is Amelia, James's fiancée. We need to talk. Fiancé. The word hung in the air like smoke. What did she want? To gloat or explain. I stared at the machine, its red light blinking like a warning. This wasn't just about the house anymore. There was more to this deception. Layers I hadn't peeled back. And as the postman's van rumbled up the lane, I braced for the next blow. Listen, if this is hitting close to home, you're not alone. Family betrayals cut deep, don't they? Hit that like button if you're with me. And subscribe for the rest because trust me, when I confront this Amelia, things are about to get messier. The postman's van grumbled to a stop outside, its engine coughing like an old smoker. I stood at the window, curtains clutched in one hand, watching him shuffle up the path with a bundle of envelopes. My heart thudded, each beat heavy with dread, as if the letters he carried were ticking bombs. The morning air smelled of damp grass and coal smoke from someone's chimney, but it did nothing to soothe the storm in my chest. James's words, house sold, car sold, goodbye looped in my head, relentless as the church bells on Sunday. Amelia's voicemail, that smooth, unfamiliar voice, sat unanswered on the machine, its red light pulsing like a heartbeat. I wasn't ready for her yet, not until I saw the proof. The letterbox clattered, and I moved faster than my creaking knees should allow, snatching the pile from the mat. Bills, a flyer for the village fete, and then a thick manila envelope, no return address, just my name scrawled in black ink. My fingers, stiff from years of gripping spades and steering wheels, fumbled with the seal. Inside, a sheaf of papers, crisp and official, the kind that screamed trouble. Conveyance documents, my house, my rover, both transferred to a holding company in London. My signature, or something close enough to fool a solicitor, stared back at me, forged with a confidence that made my stomach lurch. The date was 3 weeks ago. 3 weeks, and I'd been none the wiser, pottering about my garden while my life was dismantled. I sank into the kitchen chair, the wood groaning under my weight, and spread the papers across the table. The kettle hissed faintly, forgotten from earlier, its steam mingling with the musty scent of old wood. My eyes scanned the legalese buyer, some faceless LLC. Seller me, supposedly. Agent Bloody Wilkins. My pulse roared in my ears, drowning out the distant hum of village life. James had done this, my own son, the boy I carried on my shoulders through the village fair, who'd clung to me when Martin's coffin was lowered into the earth. How had it come to this? I rubbed my temples, the ache spreading like ivy. The document felt heavy, not just paper, but a betrayal inked in black and white. I thought of the power of attorney I'd signed months ago, James's assurances it was just in case. In case of what? His greed, his new life with this Amelia. I pushed the papers away, their edges curling like accusations. My gaze drifted to the photo on the fridge, James at 16, grinning in his school blazer, Martin's arm around him. His smile was so alive then, before the cancer stole his light. I'd given everything for him after he was gone, every penny, every hope. And now, the doorbell chimed, sharp and jarring. I froze, hands clenching the table's edge. Not now. I wasn't ready for visitors, for Edith's pity or Patel's awkward condolences, but the bell rang again, insistent, and I dragged myself to the door, the floorboards creaking like my own reluctance. It was Edith, her face flushed from the morning chill, a scarf wrapped tight around her neck. Her eyes flicked to the papers scattered behind me, curiosity glinting like a magpie spotting silver. Alice, love, you all right? Her voice was soft, but the question probed deeper than she let on. Saw the postman. Anything important. I hesitated, the weight of her stare pressing against my resolve. Village life. You can't sneeze without someone offering a hanky and a sermon. Just bills. I lied, stepping aside to let her in. The air carried her lavender soap, clashing with the kitchen's lingering tea scent. Fancy a cuppa. She nodded, settling at the table as I busied myself with the kettle, avoiding her gaze. The documents loomed between us, a silent challenge. Heard more from Patel, she said, folding her hands like she was at church. Wilkins was boasting at the pub last night. Said the sale was for a special couple. Reckon it's your James and that fiancée of his. Amelia. Was it? My hand faltered, splashing hot water on the counter. You know her name. Wilkins mentioned it. Flashy type. Apparently, Londoner, posh accent, all business, not the sort you'd expect with your James. She leaned forward, voice dropping. Alice, level with me. Did you know about the sale? I set the mugs down, the clink loud in the quiet. My throat tightened, the truth clawing its way out. No, I didn't. James called last night. Said it's done. Papers confirm it. I gestured to the mess on the table, my voice cracking. He's taken everything. Edith. Her face softened, but her eyes sharpened, like she was piecing together a puzzle. That's not right. Love. Not right at all. You should talk to someone, a solicitor. Maybe. Or confront the lad. He owes you answers. Confront James. The idea sat like lead in my gut. I wanted to scream at him, demand why he'd stabbed me in the back. But another part, the part that still saw him as my boy, ached for a reason. Any reason that might make this make sense. Was it Amelia? Money. Or something I'd done. Some failure I hadn't seen. My fingers brushed the documents. The forged signature mocking me. Was it even legal? Could I fight this? And if I did, would I lose him for good? I poured the tea, the steam curling like my thoughts. Edith, you ever think you know someone? Then find out you don't. She sipped, her lips pursing. All the time, families. They're messy. But you don't just let this go. Alice, that house is your life. Martin's garden. Your memories. You fight for it. Fight. The word hung heavy, like the damp air before a storm. I glanced out the window, the village green blurred by morning mist. James was out there, in London, building a new life on the ruins of mine. And Amelia, who was she in this? Her voicemail waited. A dare I wasn't ready to accept. But Edith was right. I couldn't just sit here, sipping tea, while my world crumbled. I stood, the chair scraping the floor, my resolve hardening like frost. I'll go to Wilkins' office today, see what he knows. My voice sounded steadier than I felt, but it was enough. Edith nodded, a spark of approval in her eyes. As she left, promising to check in later, I gathered the papers, their weight a reminder of what was at stake. The village was waking up kids on bikes, the bakery van trundling by, but inside, I was at war. With James, with myself, with the truth I didn't yet fully grasp. I slipped the documents into a folder, my hands steady now, fueled by something between anger and grief. Wilkins would talk, or I'd make him. But as I grabbed my coat, the phone rang again. That same unknown number, Amelia. My finger hovered over the answer button, heart racing. What did she want? To explain? To threaten? Or was this James? Hiding behind her voice. The ringing stopped, another voicemail blinking into existence. I couldn't listen, not yet. But as I stepped out into the crisp morning, the folder tucked under my arm, I knew one thing, whatever was coming. It was bigger than a forged signature, and I wasn't ready for what I'd find. Look, this is getting heavy, isn't it? If you're feeling the sting of this betrayal, hit that like button. It helps keep me going. And subscribe. Because when I face Wilkins, and maybe Amelia, the truth is going to hit harder than I expect. The village high street hummed with its usual rhythm dog walkers, the butcher's van idling outside Patel's shop, the faint clatter of teacups from the cafe. But as I trudged toward Wilkins' estate agency, the folder of documents tucked under my arm like a shield, the world felt off-kilter, as if the cobblestones themselves tilted beneath my boots. The air carried the sharp tang of wood smoke and wet leaves, autumn's bite settling into the Cotswolds, my breath fogged in front of me. Each exhale a reminder of the anger simmering in my chest. James's betrayal, those forged papers burned hotter than the tea I'd left cooling at home. Amelia's unanswered voicemails. 2 now, sat like unexploded ordnance in my mind. But first, Wilkins. The estate agency's glass front gleamed. It's Wilkins and Son sign, polished to a smug shine. I pushed the door open, a bell jingling like a warning. The office smelled of stale coffee and printer ink, the kind of place that reeked of deals done in back rooms. A young receptionist glanced up, her smile faltering as she took in my rumpled coat and the storm in my eyes. Mr. Wilkins, please, I said, voice low but firm, the folder heavy in my hands. He's with a client. Ma'am, can I? Now, I leaned on the counter, my knuckles white against the polished wood. She flinched, then scurried to the back, her heels clicking like a metronome. Moments later, Wilkins emerged, all slick hair and shark-like grin, his tie a garish shade of blue that screamed London money. Alice, good to see you, he boomed, too cheerful, like we were old mates. What brings you in? You know damn well. I slapped the folder onto the counter, papers spilling slightly. My house, my car, sold without my say-so. My signature's on those documents, but I didn't sign them. His grin froze, eyes darting to the folder like it might bite. Now, Alice, let's not jump to conclusions. These things are complicated. Why don't we sit? Have a chat. I didn't move. No chat. Explain how my home's gone to some London LLC and why you're cozying up to my son. Wilkins' face twitched, a crack in his polished facade. Your son, James, he had authority, power of attorney, all above board. I assumed you'd discussed. Assumed. I cut him off, my voice rising, drawing a stare from the receptionist. You assumed I'd sell the house I've lived in for 40 years, where my husband's roses still bloom. You're a bloody vulture. Wilkins. He raised his hands, placating, but his eyes were cold, calculating. Look, Alice, the buyer's a holding company. Yes, but it's for a young couple. James and his fiancée, Amelia. They're setting up a new life. I thought you'd be proud. Proud. The word hit like a slap. I gripped the counter, the wood cool under my palms, steadying me against the urge to throttle him. Who's Amelia? And don't give me your sales pitch. I want names, details. Wilkins hesitated, then sighed, loosening his tie. Amelia Carter, London-based, works in finance, sharp as a tack. She handled most of the paperwork, said it was a surprise for James, for their wedding. That's all I know. A surprise. For James, my mind reeled, the room's fluorescent lights buzzing like my thoughts. Was Amelia the mastermind, or was James playing me for a fool? Before I could press further, the bell jingled again. Edith Harrow bustled in, her scarf trailing, a fire in her eyes that matched mine. Alice, thought I'd find you here, she said, ignoring Wilkins' startled look. Patel told me Wilkins was dodging questions at the pub last night. I've got something you need to hear. Wilkins' jaw tightened. but I waved him off. Save it. I'll be back. I followed Edith outside, the cold air a shock after the office's stuffy warmth. She led me to a bench by the village green, the grass damp and glistening under the gray sky. A crow cawed from an oak, its cry sharp as my unease. Edith, what's this about? I asked, sitting heavily, the folder on my lap like a dead weight. She glanced around, ever the village sleuth, then leaned in. I've been poking about. You know, my cousin's lad works at the council. He saw the sale records. That LLC buying your place, it's tied to Amelia's name. All right, but there's more. She's got debts. Alice, big ones. Word is, she's been flipping properties to pay them off. Your house wasn't the first. My chest tightened. The air suddenly too thin. Debts. So this is about money. Maybe, but James signed off on it too. My lad saw his name on the transfer. Either he's in on it, or she's got him wrapped around her finger. Edith's voice softened, her hand brushing my sleeve. I'm not one to meddle. I snorted, and she gave a wry smile. All right, maybe I am, but you need help. Alice, I know a solicitor in Chipping Norton. Decent chap. Owes me a favor. He can look into this, see if the sale's even legal. A solicitor. The idea felt like stepping into quicksand. Formal, costly, final. But what choice did I have? My home, Martin's legacy, was slipping through my fingers. I nodded, the bench's damp wood seeping through my trousers. All right, Edith, call him. But I need to see James first, face to face. Her eyes narrowed, assessing me like a mother hen. You sure? He's not the boy you raised. Not anymore. I know. My voice cracked, the weight of it all pressing down James's cold goodbye. Amelia's shadow, the village whispering my shame. But he's still my son. I need to know why. Edith patted my knee, her touch firm but kind. Right? I'll set up with the solicitor. You go to London, but don't go alone. Take me. I've got a nose for trouble, and you're too stubborn to see straight. I almost laughed, the first spark of warmth all day. Edith, my unlikely ally, with her casseroles and council connections. Deal, I said, standing, the folder crinkling under my arm. The village green stretched before us, serene but indifferent to my unraveling life. London loomed in my mind, a maze of glass towers and secrets, where James and Amelia waited. I'd confront them, demand answers, but a nagging fear gnawed at me. What if the truth was worse than the betrayal? As we walked back to my cottage, Edith chattering about train times. My phone buzzed in my pocket. Another voicemail. Amelia again, her voice likely waiting to twist the knife deeper. I ignored it, the folder's weight anchoring me to my resolve. Wilkins knew more than he let on, and Amelia's debts were a thread I'd pull until it unraveled. But James, my boy, was at the heart of this. And as the church clock struck noon, its chime echoing across the village, I knew this trip to London would change everything. This is getting messy, isn't it? If you're hooked on this tangle of family and lies, smash that like button, it keeps me going. And subscribe. Because when I step into James's world, I'm not sure who I'll find waiting. The train to London rattled along, its rhythm a steady pulse against the churn of my thoughts. I sat by the window, the folder of documents on my lap, its edges worn from my restless fingers. Edith, beside me, flipped through a dog-eared woman's weekly, her glasses perched on her nose, but I caught her stealing glances at me, her worry as palpable as the musty scent of the carriage. The Cotswolds' rolling hills gave way to suburbs, then the gray sprawl of the city, its skyline jagged like broken teeth. Each mile tightened the knot in my chest. James was out there, in a world I didn't recognize, and I was heading to confront him, or whatever was left of the son I knew. The air in Paddington Station hit me like a wall petrol fumes. Coffee, and too many people, their voices a chaotic hum. Edith tugged my sleeve, steering me through the crowd like a sheepdog with a wayward lamb. Keep up, Alice, she muttered, her scarf flapping as we navigated to the tube. My boots felt heavy, each step echoing the question I couldn't shake. Why? James? The forged papers, Amelia's debts, Wilkins's oily grin, they swirled in my mind, a storm I couldn't outrun. We surfaced in a sleek part of London, all glass towers and overpriced cafes. James's address, pried from Wilkins' receptionist with Edith's charm and a 10-pound note, led us to a posh block of flats, its lobby gleaming with marble and pretension. The lift smelled of polish and money, a far cry from the damp wool and wood smoke of home. My palms sweated as I pressed the buzzer for flat 12B. No answer. I pressed again, harder, as if force could summon my son. The door opened, and there he was, James, taller than I remembered, his jaw set, eyes guarded, He wore a crisp shirt, sleeves rolled up, but the boy I'd raised was buried under a stranger's posture. Mum. His voice held surprise, then something colder, resignation. Maybe. What are you doing here? Need to talk. Lad. I held up the folder, my voice steady despite the tremor in my hands. About the house, the car, everything. His eyes flicked to Edith, then back to me, narrowing. This isn't a good time. I'm busy. Busy selling my life out from under me. The words slipped out, sharp as broken glass. His jaw twitched, but before he could reply, a woman appeared behind him. Tall, sharp cheekbones, her blonde hair pulled tight in a bun. Amelia, no doubt. Her smile was polished, like Wilkins' sign, but her eyes were calculating, scanning me like I was a ledger. Mrs. Thompson, I presume. Her voice was smooth, clipped, London posh. I'm Amelia. Please, come in. No need for a scene in the hallway. Edith bristled, but I nodded, stepping into a flat that screamed money white walls, leather furniture, a view of the Thames that must have cost more than my cottage. The air smelled of citrus and something sterile, like a hospital trying to be a home. We sat at a glass dining table, the folder between us like a battle line. James hovered by the window, arms crossed, avoiding my gaze. Let's cut to it, I said, opening the folder, the papers rustling like dry leaves. You forged my signature. James sold my home, my car, without a word. Why? He flinched, but Amelia leaned forward, unfazed. It's not what you think. Alice, James acted with your best interests at heart. The house was a burden maintenance. Taxes. We've secured a lovely flat for you, closer to us. You'll see the paperwork soon. A burden. I laughed, bitter, the sound harsh in the pristine room. That house was your father's, his garden, his memories. You think you can just, my voice cracked, and I gripped the table, its cold surface grounding me. You had no right. James finally spoke, his voice low, strained. Mom, you don't get it. I needed to move forward. Amelia and I were building something. The sale, it was necessary. Necessary for what? Her debts. The words were out before I could stop them. Edith's counsel gossip spilling into the open. Amelia's smile faltered, just for a second, but James's face darkened, his hands clenching. Who told you that? He snapped, glancing at Amelia. That's not... It's true, isn't it? I pressed, leaning forward, the folder's weight forgotten. Wilkins let slip about the LLC, tied to her. You're in over your head. Lad, tell me I'm wrong. Amelia stood, her chair scraping softly. This is getting out of hand. Alice, you're upset, and I understand, but accusing me won't help. James made a choice. For us, for our future. Your future. I shot back, my chest tight, the air thick with tension. What about mine? Where am I supposed to go when your lovely flat falls through? Or was that a lie too? Edith, silent until now, cleared her throat, her voice cutting through like a knife. Seems to me, miss, you're awfully calm for someone who's just been called out. Care to explain this LLC or why you're dodging Alice's questions? Amelia's eyes flashed, but she kept her composure, like a politician caught in a scandal. The LLC is standard practice for property deals, protects all parties. As for debts, that's gossip, and I don't entertain it. She turned to James, her hand on his arm. Possessive. Darling, perhaps your mother needs time to process. James looked at me, and for a moment, I saw a flicker of the boy I knew uncertain. Caught? But then his jaw set, and he nodded. Mom, go home. We'll sort this. I didn't mean for it to hurt you. Hurt. The word was too small for the ache in my chest, the betrayal seeping into my bones. I stood, the folder under my arm, my voice low. You've got one chance. James, tell me the truth, or I go to a solicitor. This isn't over. He didn't answer, just stared out at the Thames, its water glinting like Amelia's eyes. She ushered us toward the door, her smile back in place. But it didn't reach her soul. As the lift descended, Edith muttered, She's trouble, that one, and your lad's too far gone to see it. The city pressed in around us as we stepped outside, horns blaring, the air heavy with exhaust and rain. My mind churned Amelia's debts, James's complicity, the forged signature. I'd drawn a line today, but at what cost? Would James fight back? Or was Amelia pulling strings I couldn't yet see? My phone buzzed again, another voicemail. Probably her, but I couldn't face it. Not yet. Edith squeezed my arm, her scarf damp from the drizzle. We'll call that solicitor when we're home. Alice, but you've got to decide, fight for the house or for your son. Can't have both. Her words hung heavy as we boarded the train back, the city fading behind us. I clutched the folder. Its papers, a map of my unraveling life. Home was gone, but something darker was coming, a truth I wasn't sure I could face. This is getting uglier, isn't it? If you're feeling the sting of this family mess, hit that like button. It keeps me going. And subscribe. Because when I dig into Amelia's secrets, I'm not sure what I'll uncover next. The train back to the Cotswolds swayed gently, its rhythm at odds with the chaos in my head. Edith dozed beside me, her scarf bunched under her chin, the faint wheeze of her breath blending with the carriage's hum. The folder of documents lay heavy on my lap. A silent accusation. James's words. "I didn't mean for it to hurt you," echoed, hollow as the wind whistling past the window. The city's glare had faded into dark fields, but the memory of Amelia's calculating smile and James's guarded eyes burned bright. My chest ached, not just from betrayal, but from the weight of what came next. I'd drawn a line in London, and now the family was splitting along it. Back in the village, the cottage welcomed me with its familiar creaks and the faint scent of Martin's lavender still clinging to the curtains. I dropped the folder on the kitchen table, its papers spilling like secrets too big to contain. The clock ticked towards 7, the village settling into its evening hush, dogs barking, the pub's distant laughter. Edith had insisted on hosting a family meeting tonight, claiming her shepherd's pie could fix anything, even this mess. I wasn't so sure. My sister Ruth and her husband Tom were coming, along with their daughter, Lily, who'd always been close to James. Maybe they'd know something I didn't. Or maybe they'd pick sides. I changed into a clean blouse, the fabric stiff against my skin, and grabbed a bottle of Martin's homemade elderflower cordial from the pantry, a peace offering. Though I doubted it'd soften the blow of what I'd say. The walk to Edith's was brisk, the air sharp with frost, and the earthy smell of fallen leaves. Her cottage glowed warm. The windows steamed from cooking. Inside, the aroma of mince and mashed potato enveloped me, grounding but not comforting. Ruth and Tom sat at the dining table, their faces tight with worry, while Lily fidgeted with her phone, her expression unreadable. "Alice, love, you look knackered," Ruth said, standing to hug me. Her embrace was warm but brief, her eyes searching mine. "What's this about James?" Edith said it's bad. I set the cordial down, the bottle clinking against the table's polished wood. Bad doesn't cover it. I recounted the call, the forged papers, the London confrontation, every word heavy, like stones dropped into still water. Ruth's hand flew to her mouth. Tom's jaw tightened, and Lily stopped scrolling, her eyes wide. "He sold your house," Tom said, his voice low, like he was testing the words, "our parents' house. That's bloody hell." "Alice, Amelia's behind it," I said, sliding the documents across the table. "Her debts. Some LLC she's got James tangled in it. I don't know if he's a fool or a willing accomplice." Lily shifted, her chair creaking. "Aunt Alice. I saw James last month at a cafe in Oxford. He was with her, Amelia. She was all charm, buying rounds, talking about their big plans. A wedding, a business venture. But James seemed off, quiet, like he was carrying something heavy." My stomach twisted. "Why didn't you tell me?" She flushed, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. "I thought it was just stress. He said he'd call you, sort things out. I didn't know about the house." Ruth reached for the cordial, pouring with a trembling hand. "He's changed since Martin passed. Distant. But this, forging your signature, it's not the James we raised." Her voice cracked, and Tom squeezed her shoulder, his knuckles white. Edith bustled in with the pie, its golden crust steaming, but the comfort of her cooking felt hollow. We ate in tense silence, forks scraping plates, the ticking of her grandfather clock loud in the pause. I chewed slowly, the food tasteless, my mind replaying James's words in London, building something, with my home as the foundation. The thought burned, bitter as oversteeped tea. "Alice," Tom said, setting his fork down, "you've got to fight this. Legally. I know a bloke in Cheltenham, a solicitor. He'll look at those papers, see if the sale's dodgy. But you need to be sure. This could tear what's left of the family apart." "Sure," I laughed, sharp and hollow. "I'm sure my son's thrown me under the bus. That's enough to start." Lily leaned forward, her voice soft but firm. "What if James didn't know? What if Amelia tricked him? He's not evil, Aunt Alice. He's just lost." Lost. The word stung, conjuring the boy who'd clung to me at Martin's funeral, his tears soaking my blouse. Was he lost, or had he chosen this path? I pushed my plate away. The pie half-eaten. I'm going to the solicitor tomorrow. Edith's got a contact. But I need to know where you all stand. Are you with me? Or him? The room froze. Ruth's eyes welled up. Tom looked at the table, and Lily bit her lip, her phone forgotten. Edith, clearing plates, paused, her hands steady but her gaze heavy. We're family. Alice, she said, breaking the silence. But family doesn't mean blind loyalty. You've been wronged. We'll back you. But it's not just about the house. It's about trust. Trust's gone, I said, my voice rough, the weight of it settling into my bones. He said goodbye like I was nothing. I need answers. And if that means a fight, so be it. Ruth reached for my hand, her fingers cold. Just don't lose him completely. He's all you've got left of Martin. Her words hit like a fist, and I pulled back. Standing abruptly, the room felt too small, the air thick with unspoken blame. I grabbed my coat, the wool scratching my neck, and stepped into the night. The village was dark, stars hidden by clouds. The only sound, the crunch of gravel underfoot. I walked home, the cold biting my face, my mind a tangle of anger and grief. Lily's words. He's not evil clashed with the evidence of those papers. Amelia's smug composure, James's silence. Inside, the cottage was quiet. The folder still sprawled on the table like a wound. I checked the answer phone, another voicemail from Amelia. Her voice clipped. Urgent. Alice, we need to meet. Alone. There's more you don't understand. Call me? I deleted it, my finger jabbing the button, but her words lingered. More? What more could there be? I sank into the armchair, the fabric worn smooth by years of evenings with Martin. The family was fracturing, Ruth torn, Tom cautious, Lily pleading for James's soul, and me. I was the eye of the storm, ready to fight but terrified of what I'd lose. The solicitor would be my next step. But as I stared at the photo on the mantel, James, Martin, me, smiling in a world long gone, I felt a new fear. What if this fight exposed something worse? A secret James was hiding, or one Amelia held over him. The clock chimed midnight, its echo a warning. Tomorrow, I'd call the solicitor. But tonight, the fractures in our family name felt deeper than ever. And as I closed my eyes, the phone rang again, its shrill tone cutting through the dark like a blade. This is tearing us apart, isn't it? If you're feeling the weight of this family divide, hit that like button. It means the world. And subscribe. Because when I face that solicitor, and maybe Amelia's secrets, the cracks are only going to grow. The solicitor's office in Chipping Norton smelled of old leather and instant coffee, the kind that sticks to your tongue like regret. I sat in a creaky wooden chair, the folder of documents spread across a desk cluttered with legal pads and a half-eaten biscuit. Mr. Hargreaves, Edith's contact, peered over his half-moon spectacles, his face creased like the Cotswolds hills. His tweed jacket hung loose on his frame, and the room's dim light cast shadows that made him look older than his 60-odd years. Edith fidgeted beside me, her handbag clutched tight, the scent of her lavender soap clashing with the musty air. We'd come straight from last night's tense dinner, my head still throbbing from the family fractures. Ruth's tears, Lily's pleas for James's innocence. Alice, this is serious, Hargreaves said, his voice gravelly from years of courtroom battles. He tapped the forged signature with a gnarled finger. Power of attorney abuse, potential fraud. We can challenge the sale, petition the court for an injunction, but it'll take time and money and proof. Proof. The word hung heavy, like the rain clouds gathering outside the mullioned window. I'd spent the night tossing in my bed, the sheets twisted around me, replaying Amelia's voicemails, her insistent tone, promising explanations. I hadn't called back. Not yet. What kind of proof? I asked, my throat dry. The biscuit on his desk looking as appealing as sawdust. Bank records, emails, witness statements, anything showing intent. He leaned back, the chair groaning. Your son's involved. Alice, deeply. The LLC traces back to him too. Co-signed. My stomach lurched. The coffee I'd sipped earlier churning. James, co-signed. Not just a puppet, but a partner in this betrayal. Edith squeezed my knee under the table, her touch a small anchor in the storm. We'll get it, she said, her voice firm, though her eyes betrayed worry. I've got my cousin's lad at the council. He can pull strings on property records. Hargreaves nodded, scribbling notes. Start there, and talk to Wilkins again under oath if needed, but tread carefully. If Amelia's debts are real, she might be desperate. Desperate people do desperate things. Desperate. The word echoed as we left, the rain pattering on the cobbles like accusations. Back in the village, the high street was slick, puddles reflecting the gray sky. I dropped Edith home. Her parting words dig deep. Alice, but don't lose yourself ringing in my ears. Alone in the cottage, the walls felt closer, the air thick with Martin's absence. I booted up the old computer in the spare room, its fan whirring like my racing thoughts. James had set it up years ago, before the drift. Now, I'd use it to unravel him. I started with Public Records Company's house website, searching the LLC. There it was, Carter Thompson Holdings. Amelia Carter. Director, James Thompson. Co-director, registered 3 months ago. My fingers trembled on the mouse. The screen's glow harsh in the dim room. Debts. Edith's gossip had mentioned them, but how to confirm? I typed her name into a search engine, the cursor blinking expectantly. Articles popped up a finance firm in London, a scandal 2 years back. Amelia, implicated in shady property flips, debts mounting from bad investments, no charges, but whispers of bankruptcy dodged by quick sales. My house, just another flip. The phone rang, shattering the quiet. Unknown number. Amelia again. I answered this time, my voice steel-edged. What do you want? Alice. Finally. Her tone was smooth, but strained, like a violin string about to snap. We need to meet. Alone. There's things James doesn't even know. My pulse quickened. The computer screen flickering. Why should I trust you? You shouldn't. But if you want the truth about your son, come to the cafe in Cheltenham tomorrow. Noon. No Edith. No solicitors. She hung up, leaving me staring at the receiver. Its hum mocking. Truth about James. What more could there be? I paced the room, the floorboards creaking underfoot, each step stirring dust motes in the air. Martin's photo watched from the desk, his eyes kind but questioning. What would you do? Love, I whispered, my breath fogging the glass frame. Sleep evaded me that night, the rain drumming on the roof like insistent fingers. Dawn brought a watery sun, and I drove to Cheltenham, the Rover's engine rumbling familiarly. Wait, no. The car was sold. I'd borrowed Edith's old Mini, its seat smelling of dog and mints. The cafe was tucked in a side street, all chrome and frothy lattes, the air rich with espresso and fresh pastries. Amelia waited at a corner table, her suit impeccable, but dark circles under her eyes betrayed fatigue. Alice, she said as I sat, pushing a coffee toward me. The steam curled up, carrying a bitter aroma that matched my mood. Thank you for coming. Cut the niceties. What's this truth about James? She glanced around, her fingers twisting a napkin. The sale wasn't my idea. It was his. He came to me months ago, desperate, said he needed money fast, debts of his own gambling, bad investments. He forged the papers, used the power of attorney. I helped with the LLC, yes, but only because I love him. Love. The word landed like a blow, my coffee cup clattering on the saucer. You're lying. James wouldn't. He did. She slid a folder across bank statements, emails, James's name everywhere, transfers to offshore accounts, betting sites. Thousands gone. My vision blurred, the cafe's chatter fading to a roar in my ears. He's in deep. Alice. The wedding's a cover. He plans to disappear after, with the proceeds. Disappear. My son, vanishing like smoke. I rifled through the papers, the ink smudging under my sweaty palms. Emails from James need to sell quick. Mum won't notice. My chest tightened, breath shallow, the pastry's sweetness turning sour in my throat. Why tell me? What's in it for you? Her eyes met mine, vulnerable for the first time. I thought I could fix him, but he's using me too. The debts are mine, yes, but he promised to help. Now, he's cutting me out. If you stop the sale, we both lose, but maybe we save him. Save him. The irony burned. I stood, the chair scraping loudly, drawing stares. You orchestrated this, both of you, Alice. Wait, but I was out. The door slamming behind me. The rain now pouring, soaking my coat. The drive back blurred, wipers slashing rhythmically. My mind a tempest. James, gambling, forging alone. Amelia's words clashed with the boy I knew, but the evidence cold. Hard print didn't lie. Back home, I confronted the computer again, cross-checking her docs. It matched James's digital trail. Bets on football. Stocks gone wrong. A deeper search revealed more messages to mates, boasting about easy money from the old woman. My fists clenched, nails digging into palms, drawing blood. The cottage felt violated, every corner echoing his deceit. Edith arrived later, her knock tentative. How'd it go with the solicitor follow-up? I showed her Amelia's folder, my voice hoarse. It's worse. James is the architect. Gambling debts. He's planning to bolt. Her face paled, hand to her mouth. Bloody hell. What now? Now? We go to Hargreaves with this, stop the sale, expose him. But as I said it, a hollow ache spread. Justice. Yes, but at what cost? My son. Ruined, maybe jailed. The family name tarnished forever. That night, as thunder rumbled outside, matching the storm in my soul, the phone rang again. James this time. Mom, we need to talk. Amelia's lying. Come to London alone. His voice, pleading but edged, another layer, or a trap. I hung up, the line dead. But the question's alive, unraveling everything I thought I knew. This twist cuts deep, doesn't it? If you're reeling from James's secrets, hit that like button, it helps. And subscribe. Because when I face him again, the truth might shatter us all. The rain had eased to a drizzle by morning, but the sky hung low and gray, pressing down on the village like the weight of my discoveries. I stood in the kitchen. The folder from Amelia spread across the table alongside Hargreaves's notes, their papers mingling like uneasy allies. The scent of stale coffee lingered in the air, bitter and grounding. As I gripped the phone, James's number staring back from the screen. His voicemail last night, Mum. Amelia's lying. Come to London alone played on loop in my mind. His voice edged with a desperation I hadn't heard since he was a lad caught nicking sweets from Patel's shop. But now, it was bigger. Gambling debts, forgeries, plans to disappear. Was Amelia the liar, or was he? Edith had left with a promise to rally Ruth and Tom, her footsteps crunching on the gravel as she bustled off, scarf flapping like a flag of reluctant support. The cottage felt hollow without her chatter, the ticking clock. The only companion to my churning thoughts. My fingers hovered over the call button, knuckles aching from clenching. What if this was a trap? Or the chance to hear his side, Martin's photo watch from the sideboard, his smile a gentle nudge. One last try. I muttered, pressing dial. The ringtone echoed, each trill tightening the knot in my gut. Mom? James answered on the third ring, his voice hushed, like he was hiding. Background noise traffic. Perhaps, or the hum of a cafe filtered through. We need to meet, face to face. No Amelia, no solicitors, just us. My words came out gruff, the damp air seeping through the window frame, chilling my skin. A pause, heavy as the fog rolling in from the fields. All right, the pub near my flat, the King's Arms. 2:00. Come alone. He hung up, leaving me with the dial tone's flat buzz. I set the phone down, hands trembling slightly, and poured another coffee. The steam rising in lazy spirals, the brew scalded my tongue. A sharp reminder to stay alert. What secrets would surface today? And could I walk away without shattering what was left? The train journey blurred by, the carriage's sway matching my unease. I told Edith I was going solo, her protests ringing in my ears as I boarded. Stubborn old fool, she'd muttered. But her hug was tight, scented with lavender and worry. London swallowed me again, its bustle a stark contrast to the village's quiet lanes. The King's Arms was a faux traditional pub, all dark wood and brass fittings, smelling of spilled ale and fried chips. James sat in a corner booth, nursing a pint, his face drawn, stubble shadowing his jaw. He looked up as I approached, his eyes, Martin's eyes, flickering with something between relief and fear. Mom, he said, standing awkwardly, gesturing to the seat. What'll you have? Tea, I replied, sliding in, the vinyl bench sticky under my trousers. The pub hummed with lunchtime chatter, glasses clinking, a fruit machine beeping in the corner. A waitress brought my tea, the cup warm in my hands, steam carrying a faint bergamot note. James leaned forward, elbows on the scarred table. Amelia's twisting things. The gambling. It's not what you think. I borrowed money. Yes, but it was for a deal gone wrong. Investments. She pushed me into it. I sipped the tea, scalding again, mirroring the burn in my chest. Borrowed or gambled away. I've seen the statements. Lad, offshore accounts, betting sites, your name everywhere. His face paled, fingers drumming the table. She showed you. Bloody hell. Mom, it's her debts. Not mine. She used my name. Forged the lot. I thought we were building something, a business, a future. But she's the one planning to run. The words hung between us, thick as the pub's smoky air. I studied him, searching for the averted gaze, the twitch he'd had as a boy when fibbing about homework. But his eyes met mine, steady, pleading. Prove it, I said, voice low, the chatter around us fading. He pulled out his phone, thumbs flying, and slid it across. Emails, texts, Amelia demanding money. Threats veiled as love notes. Pay up, or I tell your mom everything. My stomach twisted, the tea curdling. Why not tell me sooner? Why sell the house? James rubbed his face, the stubble rasping. Shame, Mum. After Dad, I spiraled. Missed payments, bad choices. Amelia said she'd fix it, but she needed collateral. The power of attorney, I twisted it. Thought I could pay back before you noticed. Twisted. The word stung, like salt in a cut. I leaned back, the booth's wood digging into my spine. You twisted it. Forged my name. That's not fixing. James, that's theft. His shoulders slumped. The pint forgotten. Foam settling. I know. I'm sorry. But there's more. Dad's insurance, the payout after he died. I took some for uni debts back then. Never told you. The revelation hit like a lorry. My breath catching. Martin's insurance meant for the house. For security. I'd scrimped, thinking it was all there. But he dipped in. How much? I whispered. The pub's warmth turning cloying. Enough to hurt, he admitted. Voice cracking. I was young, stupid. Thought I'd replace it. But it snowballed. Amelia found out, used it against me. Twisted secrets surfacing. Raw and ugly. The fruit machine jackpot rang out, mocking our misery. I gripped the teacup, porcelain cool now, my knuckles white. You've destroyed us. Lad, for what? A quick fix. He reached across, hand hovering near mine, but I pulled back. Mum, please, help me fix this. We can stop the sale. Pay off the debts together. Don't go legal, it'll ruin me. Ruin him. The words echoed. A mirror to my own ruin. The house, gone. Trust, shattered. But he was my son, flesh and blood, carrying Martin's laugh in his... Could I turn him in, or was there a way back? I stood, the booth creaking, my coat brushing the table. I need time, but this ends today. No more lies. Mum, wait. He grabbed my arm, gripped tight, desperate. If you walk away, Amelia wins. She'll take everything. I shook him off, the pub's doorbell jingling as I stepped into the drizzle, the city's chill seeping into my bones. The train home was a blur, faces flashing past like ghosts. Hargreaves' number burned in my pocket. Legal action. Injunctions, exposure. But James's confession gnawed at me. Dad's insurance, gambling or blackmail. Whose truth to believe? Edith waited at the cottage, tea brewing, her eyes sharp. Well, what did he say? I sank into the chair, the cushion sagging, and spilled it all the emails. The insurance, Amelia's hold, her face hardened, hand on mine. Alice, you can't let him off. Not after everything. But as the evening deepened, the fire crackling in the hearth, its warmth failing to reach me, I stared at the phone. A message from James. Please, Mum, one chance. And another from Amelia. He's lying. Meet me tomorrow, or lose him forever. Two sides, pulling me apart. I picked up the phone, dialing Hargreaves. My voice steady despite the quake inside. File the papers. We're going legal. The line connected, sealing the decision. No turning back now. But as the solicitor's voice crackled through, confirming the risks, estrangement, scandal, a deeper fear gripped me. What if this unearthed more secrets, ones that could break us beyond repair? This is the point of no return, isn't it? If you're torn like I am, smash that like button. It keeps the story alive. And subscribe. Because when the legal hammer falls, the fallout might destroy what's left of us. The rain had long since rumbled away, leaving echoes in the empty cottage that still haunted my dreams. 3 months on, and here I was in a modest flat on the outskirts of Cheltenham, the kind with beige walls and a view of a car park rather than rolling hills. The air smelled of fresh paint and unfamiliar neighbor's curry from downstairs, laundry detergent wafting through the vents. My few boxes sat unpacked in the corner, their contents a jumble of Martin's teacups and old photo albums, relics from a life I'd fought to reclaim but lost in the process. The legal battle was won. Hargreaves had pulled strings. The injunction stuck, and the sale reversed. The house was mine again. But what good was a victory that left me rattling around in rented anonymity? I shuffled to the kitchenette, the lino floor sticky under my slippers, and flicked on the kettle. Its hum filled the small space, a poor substitute for the village's morning chorus of birds and distant tractors. Tea steeped. I carried the mug to the window, staring at the gray expanse of tarmac below, cars parked in neat rows like soldiers at rest. The injunction had exposed it all: James's gambling debts, Amelia's manipulations. The forged signatures traced back to both. The court had ruled in my favor. Fines levied, but James had vanished before the dust settled. A ghost in London with a restraining order slapped on for good measure. Amelia. She'd lawyered up, slithered away with a slap on the wrist, her posh accent no doubt charming some Newmark. The mug warmed my hands, the steam carrying a faint tannin bite, but it couldn't thaw the chill in my chest. I'd won the house, but the cost, bloody hell. The cost. Ruth hadn't spoken to me since the hearing. Her last words over the phone a hissed. You've broken us. Alice. Tom sent a curt text about needing space. And Lily, my niece, who'd shown up that misty night with wide eyes, spilling that James had tried to rope her into the scheme, a desperate bid for cash. She'd refused, come to me instead, but even she looked at me now with pity mixed with distance. Her visits rare and awkward. I set the mug down, the clink loud in the quiet, and wandered to the boxes, pulling out a photo Martin in his sun hat, pruning roses, his smile crinkling the corners of his eyes. Tears pricked mine. What have I done? Love, I whispered, my voice rough, echoing off the blank walls. The flat felt like a cage, its compact rooms a far cry from the cottage's rambling charm. I'd rented it temporary-like, thinking I'd return home once the papers cleared, but stepping back into that house after the battle, it reeked of betrayal. Every creak a reminder of James's footsteps, every shadow Amelia's scheming grin. So here I stayed, in limbo. The legal win, a Pyrrhic trophy-gathering dust. A knock at the door jolted me, sharp as a starter's pistol. I wiped my eyes, shuffling over, expecting the postman with another bill. But it was Edith, her scarf bundled against the autumn nip, a Tupperware in hand. Alice, you look like death warmed up, she said, bustling in without invitation, the scent of apple crumble following her like a warm hug. She set it on the counter, eyeing the unpacked boxes with a tut, still not settled. It's been months. Love? I shrugged, sinking onto the sofa, a lumpy thing that came with the flat, its fabric frayed at the arms. What's to settle? The house is empty without. She perched beside me, her hand on my knee, firm but kind. Without family. But family's what you make it now. Ruth'll come round. Give her time. Time. The words soured like milk left out. I'd given James time, years of it, and look where it landed us. The hearing replayed in my mind James on the stand, eyes downcast, admitting the debts, the forgery, but pinning it on Amelia's influence. She made me, he'd muttered, voice cracking, but the judge saw through it. The evidence damning. I'd sat there, stone-faced, Hargreaves patting my back like I'd scored a goal, but inside, I shattered, my boy, reduced to a defendant, his future tarnished by my hand. Edith sliced the crumble, plating it with a clatter of cutlery, the cinnamon aroma filling the flat, chasing away the paint smell for a moment. We ate in companionable silence, forks scraping, the sweetness bursting on my tongue, a rare comfort. Heard from Lily, she asked, dabbing her lips. I texted last week. Says James surfaced in Manchester, crashing with mates. No job, no plans. My voice caught, the crumble sticking in my throat. Lily had been the bridge, relaying scraps of news, her loyalty torn, but leaning my way after his attempt to drag her in. She thinks I was too harsh, pushing the full charges. Edith's eyes softened, the lines around them deepening. Harsh. He sold your life, Alice. But families forgive, or try to forgive. The concept loomed like the car park's sodium lights flickering on outside, casting an orange glow through the window. I'd replayed it all: the call, the confrontation, the court wondering where I'd gone wrong. Was it after Martin died, when grief turned me inward, leaving James to spiral alone? Or earlier, pushing him toward uni, remortgaging without a word, thinking it was love but maybe control? The legal win had reclaimed the house, but relationships lay in ruins, shattered like Martin's favorite vase in a long-ago row. The phone buzzed on the table, Ruth's name flashing. My heart leaped, fingers fumbling to answer. Ruth, Alice. Her voice was clipped, the line crackling with unsaid words. Tom and I were coming down next week to talk about the house and everything. The word hung, pregnant with possibility or finality. All right, I said, throat tight, the crumble's warmth fading. I'll be here. She hung up. No goodbye, just a click that echoed in my ears. Edith raised an eyebrow, hope glinting in her gaze. A start, maybe, but as she left, promising to check in tomorrow, The flat closed in again, the walls echoing my solitude. I wandered to the bedroom, a poky space with a single bed that creaked under my weight. Sleep came fitful. Dreams of James as a lad, laughing in the garden, morphing into the courtroom's cold stare. Morning brought a weak sun, filtering through thin curtains, and I rose, joints protesting, to face another day in this new landscape. The car park bustled below, engines revving, people hurrying to lives I envied. I'd won, but loss shadowed every corner the family rift. The empty house waiting like a mausoleum. Was I too harsh? The question gnawed, relentless as the kettles boil for my morning tea. Ruth's visit loomed, a chance at mending or the final nail. But as I sipped, the steam blurring my reflection in the window, a text pinged Lily. Tea. James called me. He's coming home. Says he wants to make amends. But there's something you need to know first. Something, the word chilled me. The mug slipping slightly in my grip. What fresh secret? Had my choices reshaped us into strangers, or was there hope in the ruins? The flat felt smaller, the car park's hum mocking my uncertainty. Victory had redrawn the map, but the terrain was treacherous. Loss etched in every line. This new life is lonelier than I imagined, isn't it? If you're wondering if bridges can rebuild, hit that like button, it keeps the hope alive. And subscribe. Because with James returning, the landscape might shift again, and not for the better. The flat's buzzer rang sharp and unexpected, like a pinprick in the fog of my afternoon doze. I blinked awake in the armchair, the mug of lukewarm tea tipping precariously on my knee, its bergamot scent mingling with the faint must of unpacked boxes. 3 months in this beige limbo, and surprises still jolted me like they did back in the village. Only now, they carried the weight of what-ifs rather than outright dread. I shuffled to the intercom, joints creaking in protest, the lino floor cool under my socks. Yes, my voice came out gruff, laced with the gravel of disuse. Aunt Alice, it's Cousin Harold. From Bristol. Mind if I come up? Harold, Martin's nephew, the one who'd popped up at family does with his booming laugh and tales of fishing trips. We hadn't spoken since the funeral. His Christmas cards, the only thread holding us. My finger hovered over the button, hesitation twisting in my gut like indigestion from last night's pie. What did he want? Pity, or to dredge up the mess with James. But isolation had worn me thin, the flat silence a constant companion, so I buzzed him in, the door's click echoing down the hall. He appeared at the threshold, a burly man in his 50s, his anorak dripping from the drizzle outside, carrying the sharp tang of rain and exhaust. Alice, mate, he said, enveloping me in a bear hug that smelled of wool and pipe tobacco, a habit he'd never kicked. Heard about the kerfuffle. Thought I'd check in. Brought some biscuits, McVitie's, the good stuff. We settled in the living room, the sofa sagging under his weight, the packet of digestives crinkling as he tore it open. The car park view loomed through the window, cars gleaming wet under the sodium lamps, their reflections dancing like uneasy memories. Harold dunked a biscuit in his tea, the crunch loud in the quiet, and eyed me over the rim of his mug. Ruth mentioned your hold up here. The old cottage too full of ghosts. Ghosts. The word hung heavy, stirring the air like dust motes in a sunbeam. I nodded, sipping my tea, the warmth spreading, but not reaching the cold knot in my chest. I want it back, but feels tainted. James's handprints everywhere. Even if they're not. Harold leaned forward, elbows on knees, his face creased with that family resemblance, Martin's nose, a bit broader. Look, Alice, I'm not here to pry, but family's family. In it. Ruth's been fretting, says you're all splintered. I thought maybe a neutral party could bridge things. Bridge. The idea sparked a flicker, warm but tentative, like the first embers in a grate. We talked then, halting at first, the words tumbling out over more tea and biscuits, crumbs scattering like confessions. He shared news of his lot kids grown, a granddaughter on the way, fishing trips to the Severn. Life goes on. He said, his laugh rumbling, but his eyes held a knowing glint. James, he's surfaced, in Manchester, like Lily said. Rough shape, from what I hear. My pulse quickened, the mug's handle slick in my grip. You've spoken to him. Rang me last week. Sounded broken. Said he wants to make amends, but doesn't know how. Asked about you. Alice, if you're all right. All right? The word tasted bitter, like overbrewed tea leaves. I set the mug down, the clink sharp, and rubbed my temples. The ache there a constant since the hearing. What'd you tell him? Harold hesitated, dunking another biscuit, the tea darkening as it softened. Told him family's not a switch you flip. Needs work. Suggested he write you, start small. No promises. Mind. A letter. The thought landed soft, like rain on the window pane, pattering against my resolve. We sat in companionable silence after the drizzle outside turning to a steady drum, the flat's heater humming to life with a faint rattle. Harold's outreach felt like a tentative hand extended across a chasm, not quite bridging, but offering a rope. "Thanks for coming," I said as he stood to leave, his anorak rustling. "Means more than you know." He clapped my shoulder, his grip firm, calloused from years on the docks. "We're blood. Alice, burned bridges can be rebuilt. Some anyway. Give Ruth a ring. She's waiting." The door shut behind him, the latch clicking, leaving the flat quieter than before. The biscuit packet half empty on the table. I wandered to the window, the car park now blurred by rain streaks. Lights haloed in the mist. Harold's words stirred something, a hesitant hope, mingled with the familiar sting of loss. Family, splintered but not severed. That night, sleep came easier, the bed's creak less accusing, dreams fragmented with images of bridges over the windrush, some charred, others mending with fresh timber. A week later, Ruth and Tom arrived, their knock punctual as the church clock back home. The flat smelled of fresh coffee I'd brewed, its rich aroma cutting through the paint scent, a small effort at hospitality. Ruth looked older, lines etched deeper around her eyes, her cardigan hugging her frame like armor. Tom hovered behind, his handshake brisk, the air thick with unspoken tension. "Alice," Ruth said, settling on the sofa, her voice soft but edged, like a knife wrapped in velvet. "This place, it's not you, not much is these days," I replied, pouring coffee, the steam curling up, carrying a hint of hazelnut from the fancy pods I'd splurged on. We talked surfaces first, weather, Harold's visit, the granddaughter on the way, but the undercurrent pulled us deeper, words bubbling like the kettle's boil. "James rang me," Ruth admitted, cupping her mug, the warmth flushing her cheeks. "Wants to come home. Says he's sorry." "Alice, truly sorry." The word echoed, stirring the knot in my gut, a mix of anger and ache. Tom's jaw tightened, his fingers drumming the armrest. "He's paid, hasn't he? Fines. The shame. Maybe time to let it lie." Let it lie. I stared into my coffee, the dark liquid swirling like my thoughts. The legal wind had reclaimed the house, but boundaries had emerged, sharp as hedgerows. "He can't just waltz back," I said, voice steady despite the tremor. "Trusts earned, not given, but maybe a letter, like Harold said. Start there." Ruth's eyes welled, a tear tracing her cheek, salty as the sea. Harold fished. "That's something. We've missed you, sister." The rift, it's eaten at us all. We hugged goodbye, awkward but genuine, the flat's door clicking shut with a note of possibility. Tom muttered a gruff "take care," his hand lingering on my shoulder. Alone again, I unpacked a box Martin's photo album, its leather cool under my fingers, pages whispering as I flipped through. Faces smiled back, fractured but familiar, a reminder that some bridges burned clean, others rebuilt with sturdier stone. Lily texted that evening, "Aunt, James is writing the letter, but Alice, there's conditions. He wants to meet. Neutral ground. You ready?" "Ready." The word hung, a question mark in the flat's dim light. The rain resuming its patter outside. I'd accepted the fractures, Ruth's tentative thaw, Harold's rope across the chasm, Lily's hope, but James's return loomed, a shadow that could mend or widen the cracks. As I stared at the car park, lights flickering like uncertain stars, a deeper unease settled. What if his amends unearthed more secrets, ones I'd buried deeper than Martin's roses? The flat felt warmer that night. The heater's hum a steady pulse, but sleep evaded me. The boundaries of our rebuilt family fragile as new ice. Harold's outreach had sparked it, but acceptance came slow, the fractured state, a new normal. Yet with James's letter on the horizon, I wondered, could we truly rebuild, or would the weight of the past topple it all? This reconciliation is bittersweet, isn't it? If you're rooting for some healing, hit that like button, it warms the heart. And subscribe, because when James's letter arrives, along with whatever shadows it carries, our fractured family might face its final tests. The village hall smelled of polished wood and stewed tea, the kind brewed too long for the WI meetings that filled its calendar. Tonight, though, it was the annual harvest supper, the tables laden with shepherd's pies, apple crumbles, and jugs of cloudy cider. their sharp tang mingling with the faint damp of autumn air seeping through the windows. I stood near the back, clutching a pint glass, its foam settling slowly, the amber liquid catching the glow of fairy lights strung across the rafters. The village buzzed around me. Patel joking with the vicar, Mrs. Harrow's sister dishing out gossip with her scones, but I felt like a ghost, present yet apart. My place in this community reshaped by the year's turmoil. It had been a week since Ruth and Tom's visit to my Cheltenham flat, their cautious olive branch still fragile in my mind. James's letter, promised by Lily, had arrived yesterday, its envelope plain but heavy, waiting unopened on my kitchen counter like a bomb I wasn't ready to defuse. I'd moved back to the cottage 3 days ago. The legal battle long won, but its rooms felt hollow, the creak of floorboards echoing betrayal rather than home. Martin's roses, overgrown now, scratched at the windows, their thorns a silent accusation. I'd come to the supper to escape, to feel the village's pulse, but the weight of what remained of family, of me clung like damp wool. Edith sidled up, her floral dress clashing with the hall's muted tones, a plate of crumble in hand. "Alice, you're brooding again," she said, her voice teasing but soft, her lavender scent cutting through the cider's bite. "Mix with folk. It's a party, not a wake." I managed a half smile, sipping my pint, the bitterness sharp on my tongue. "Feels like a wake." "Edith, family's different now," she nodded, her eyes tracing the crowd. Kids darting between tables, old Mr. Jenkins regaling with war stories. "Different, but you're here. That counts." Her hand brushed my arm, steadying, before she bustled off to scold a lad swiping extra cake. Ruth and Tom were across the room, chatting with Lily, who'd driven up from Oxford for the night. Ruth caught my eye, offering a hesitant wave, her cardigan a familiar shade of green that reminded me of Martin's knitting. Tom nodded, less guarded than last week, his pint raised in a small salute. Lily, though, looked torn, her phone clutched tight, no doubt texting James. Her warning about his conditions lingered, a shadow over her attempt at a smile. The family had gathered, but not whole splinters remained, jagged edges catching on every glance. I wandered to a table, the cloth sticky with spilled cider, and picked at a slice of pie, its pastry flaking under my fork. The warmth of the hall, the laughter, the clink of glasses, it should have soothed, but it only sharpened the ache. A year ago, I'd have been in the thick of it, swapping stories with Patel, Martin's laugh in my memory. Now, I was the woman who'd taken her son to court, won back her house, and lost something intangible. The village knew whispers followed me, some admiring my stand, others clucking at the scandal. "Poor Alice," they'd say, thinking I didn't hear. Poor, maybe, but not broken. Not yet. Lily approached, her boots scuffing the floor, her face pale under the lights. "Aunt Alice," she said, voice low, the crowd's hum covering us. "Did you read it?" James's letter. I shook my head, the pint glass cool against my palm. Not yet. Needed time. The truth was, I feared it his words, his excuses, whatever conditions he'd set. Would it be remorse or another lie? She bit her lip, hesitating, then pulled a folded paper from her pocket. "He sent me a copy. It's heavy. He's sorry. Truly, but he's asking for a meeting. Says he'll sign over any claim to the house. No fight. If you'll hear him out, in person. Neutral ground." Like I said, neutral ground. The phrase echoed, cold as the autumn air outside. I took the paper, its edges soft from handling, and tucked it into my coat. "I'll read it tonight." "But Lily, is it worth it?" After everything, her eyes welled, reflecting the fairy lights like stars. "He's family, aunt, messed up. Yes, but he's trying. Don't you want to know why?" Why? The question that had driven me through this nightmare, the call, the forgery. Amelia's schemes. I nodded, throat tight, and she squeezed my hand, her touch fleeting but warm. "Thanks for coming," she said, drifting back to Ruth, leaving me with the paper's weight, heavier than the pint in my hand. The supper wound down, plates cleared, cider jugs emptying. I slipped out early, the night air sharp with frost, the village green glinting under moonlight. Back in the cottage, the fire unlit, I sat at the kitchen table, the letter's envelope stark against the wood. I opened it, fingers trembling. The papers rustle loud in the silence. James's handwriting slanted, hurried spilled across the page. "Mom, I've no right to ask forgiveness. I messed up debts, lies, Dad's insurance. Amelia pushed, but I chose. I'm in Manchester, trying to rebuild. I'll give up the house. No contest. But please, meet me. One chance to explain. I don't want to lose you too. Lose me too. The words tore at me. Martin's absence a fresh wound. He'd listed a cafe in Birmingham, a date next week. Conditions: no lawyers, no Amelia, just us. I folded the letter, my eyes stinging, the cottage's chill wrapping around me like doubt. Was it worth it? The fight, the legal win, the fractured family. I'd reclaimed the house, but the cost: Ruth's silence, Tom's distance. Lily's torn loyalty loomed larger than the victory. I stood, pacing to the window, the garden dark, roses swaying in the breeze. The village slept, its lights dim, a community that held me but couldn't fill the void. Family had changed Harold's visit, Ruth's tentative return, Lily's hope, but James remained the question mark. Meeting him could mend a thread or snap it forever. No clear answers, just the open road ahead, uncertain as the mist rolling over the hills. I lit the fire, its crackle a small defiance against the cold, and placed Martin's photo on the mantel, his smile steady. What remains? Love, I whispered, the flames casting shadows that danced with my doubts. The letter lay on the table, a choice unmade, its words a fragile bridge to an unknown future. This is all that's left, isn't it? If you're wondering if family can survive this, hit that like button, it keeps us tethered. And subscribe, because when I face James one last time, what remains of us will either hold or break for good.